This is the ExtraTime.com League of Ireland Voice Notes podcast. It's a European special today as you listen. We'll also hear from ExtraTime.com League of Ireland podcast presenter Luke Jordan, who is in Australia. It was a particularly tough day for Luke because he watched Ireland being beaten by Australia, 1-0 the final score, and no doubt he was up in the early hours in Sydney watching St. Pat's lose to Dudelange. 3-2 on the night, 5-3 on aggregate. We'll have more on this game in a while with Keith Treacy, who watched it with me. We'll also hear from the St. Pat's camp. But first, let's go to Oriel Park, because it was a very good night for Dundalk, who beat Bruno's Magpies by 3-1. Watching that one was former Dundalk captain John Flanagan, and after the game he sent us this voice note.
The game started off perfectly for Dundalk. Daly whipping in the corner in 3 minutes that Pat Hooban headed home on the back post. Dundalk fans were hoping that they would have pushed on and really put the game to bed then, but they didn't. They sat off, and Magpies grew into the game as the half progressed and looked really threatening down the right hand side, with Coombs giving Daly a torrid time. Just before half time, Magpies got a deserved equaliser. A wonderful volley from the midfielder from 20 yards, found the top corner and gave Nathan Shepherd no chance. So the game at half time, 1-1. Stephen O'Donnell went back to the drawing board and he made a substitution at half time. He brought on John Martin in place of Uli Koku, and John Martin had an immediate impact. Great build-up play between himself and Ryan O'Kane. Found Ryan O'Kane down the left-hand channel and he pulled the ball across, and there was John Martin to follow up on his own shot and give Dundalk a 2-1 lead early in the second half. The game then descended into a bit of a long ball affair, very little quality, neither team creating many opportunities or chances, and a real distinct lack of quality. Dundalk eventually found the third goal when Pat Hooban was slipped down the right hand side of the defence. His cutback aimed for Dan Kelly, and Dos Santos, the fullback coming across, slid in to try and block it and put it into his own goal. So 3-1 to Dundalk. Poor enough game quality wise, but Dundalk fans and players alike won't really care about that, because it's them to progress on to the second qualifying round, and a huge financial windfall is their reward.
Former Dundalk defender John Flanagan happy with what he saw at Oriel Park as Dundalk overcame Bruno's Magpies of Gibraltar by 3-1 on the night, and indeed 3-1 on aggregate. This is the ExtraTime.com League of Ireland Voice Notes Euro special. More from here in Richmond Park, where I'm talking to you from in a moment. We'll also get the thoughts of Luke Jordan of ExtraTime.com, who is in Sydney this morning to watch Ireland lose to Australia. But first, let's go to the Ryan McBride Brandywell, where a Diallo goal gave Derry City a 1-0 victory against HB Torshavn of the Faroe Islands. So they're through to the second qualifying round. After the match, the Candy Stripes boss, Ruadhri Higgins, spoke to Drive 105, amongst others.
Aye, delighted. Obviously, it's the first time in 9 years we've got through around in Europe. That was the objective, and the game should have been out of sight. It should have been out of sight. It should never have got into the last 20 minutes. And whenever that happens, whenever you let it get to that point, then it becomes nervy. The ground becomes nervy. Players start hanging on to what we've got, and as I said, it should have been 4-5 at that stage, and before they progress again in Europe, then you have to be more clinical and more ruthless. But it's a brilliant night for the football club. I'm absolutely delighted for people like Philip Ruadhri with the investment that he puts into the football club, and it's nice to be able to give something back in terms of finances and stuff like that as well. So it's brilliant for people like Philip and all the players, the staff, supporters, and you can see the joy in people's faces at full time, and that's what it's about. Gone are the days where you can disrespect clubs from smaller nations and stuff like that. You look at last night, Klaksvik, the top team in the Faroes, absolutely wiped the floor with Ferencváros, who are a monstrous club in Hungary. They're a huge club, and they've gone and put them out convincingly. And if that doesn't show people that these teams are no mugs, then nothing will. And we didn't take them lightly. And to be fair, I thought the players for the first 70 minutes were excellent. And listen, we got it over the line in the end. But as I said, if we want to progress the game, we have to be more clinical. I wanted to get that offer back. The 9 years it was doing my head in. We're too big of a club. And then obviously the chairman, it was really important that we give something back as well. And I'm sure that the office staff, Dodie and Bert and all them, will be busy now over the next day or two trying to work on arrangements. But we also, it's my job now to refocus and prepare the team for Sunday against Athlone.
Yeah, you've got Athlone, but it also sets you up now with this next European tie against Croops, which comes around very quickly as well. Are you able to give us any sort of early impressions on what you think's in store with that tie?
I've no idea, and that's Boiler. Jared Boyle travelled out to see them. He's done a lot of homework in the background, and I haven't looked at any of that, and I will obviously. We have the game on Sunday as well, so it's a 5 o'clock kickoff, so you've got Sunday night, all day Monday, before the players come back, and on Tuesday to get them ready.
And I think the first leg's at home, isn't it?
First leg's at home, mate.
Do you see that as an advantage this time around?
Well, I was speaking to someone on the pitch before the game, and you look at the away goals rule gone. That was a big advantage for us because. I actually think it's turned out to be a good role for us, but it took a wee bit of pressure off us tonight, and it was good to obviously get ourselves in the lead, but just slightly disappointed we didn't go and put 2 or 3 away.
Rory, your cup match, defending your FA Cup this weekend against Athlone in Europe next week. Has everybody come through unscathed tonight?
I think so. I think so. Everyone seems in decent health. So we will freshen the team up to a certain extent on Sunday. Won't be dramatic, but we'll freshen it up to a certain extent because we want to try and get ourselves into the next round of that as well. So tonight's a big night for the club, but we move on quickly.
You had the luxury of taking off Patrick and bringing on McElhinney. You'll need that kind of experience.
Absolutely, we've it's good that the majority of our squad are fit and healthy at the minute, bar the couple of long-term injuries, and we're coming into a vital part of the season, Europe, Cup, League, so there's so much to look forward to, so much to get excited about, and we'll need everybody.
Well, you mentioned the fans earlier on there. How key were they tonight?
I thought they were brilliant, to be honest. I thought they were brilliant, and even the frustration of not getting that second goal and going on winning the game more comfortably, they stuck with us. And in the last 10 minutes when they were putting long throws in our box and punting the ball in our box, they got right behind us and they seen us over the line. So our supporters love being involved in European football, and I'm delighted for them as well that we can give them another round to look forward to.
This is the extratime.com League of Ireland Voice Notes podcast. It is a Euro special. I'm joined here at Richmond Park by Keith Treacy because St. Pat's unfortunately lost 3-2 on the night to Dudelange. That's 5-3 on aggregate. Keith Treacy, formerly of St. Pat's, who played the last time Pat's played Luxembourgese outfit here at Richmond Park. And Keith, was 3-2 on the night and 5-3 on aggregate a fair reflection?
I think so, yeah, Oisin. I think especially here at home and in Chicago, Pats did huff and puff. They looked okay in the final third. The press was good. They did put up a fight. There is a way to win a game and there's a way to lose a game. And I think although Pats have lost this game and it's a sickening feeling, they did play okay and they threw a couple of punches, but just a little bit too loose in defence. Shot themselves in the foot with the second goal, which was a big momentum turner for Dudelange. But look, take nothing away from Dudelange. Really, really dangerous up front, decent in the midfield, and very, very compact at the back. So a very decent team, but there is an avenue where Pats could have played a little bit better and maybe turned the screw. But you can see it 5 goals over 2 legs, and it's just not good enough defensively. They went 1-0 down. Van Lingen at it again. That was the first of his hat-trick tonight as we speak. But they made their way back into the game thanks to a bizarre own goal. A ball cannoned off Lennon in midfield. Desperez, the goalkeeper, came out to the edge of the 18-yard box. He ended up heading it backwards, and that made it 1-1 on the night. Decker tried to stop it. He couldn't do so. Adam Murphy came off the bench at half-time. He put St. Pat's 2-1 up in the second half, and it looked good at that stage. But then Dudelange got their couple of goals. Van Lingen again at it. Yeah, it was swinging. The game was swinging from one team to the other. When Dudelange went ahead, I was like you, Oisin. I was thinking this is a huge hill now for St. Pat's to go and get anything out of. But then when St. Pat's go and they forced the OG, and it's really come from a nothing. It's a 50-50 ball into the middle of the pitch. All of a sudden, it's gone up into the sky, and the goalkeeper, Desperez, has come flying out to the edge of his own 18-yard box and headed it backwards into his own goal. A real stroke of luck for St. Pat's. But then all of a sudden, Pats were winning the midfield battle. They were winning the second balls. They were the one who were looking to go and drive on in the tie. But to be fair, they did really well in that period. But Dudelange never really looked uncomfortable with it. They looked okay. They did use the dark arts quite well. They went down and killed the clock at times. And look, that front line of the three that they have, full of all sorts of talent. Van Lingen in particular, left foot, right foot, makes no real difference. Really, really accomplished finisher. So look, I think Pats huffed and puffed in the end, but look, just shot themselves in the foot too many times over the course of the two ties, and I keep going back to it. You can't concede 3 goals at home and 5 goals overall in the tie and expect to win this.
And as we look out onto the pitch here, the Dudelange players are standing around. Some of them are on the phones, presumably to loved ones and friends. At the end of the game, they were celebrating like this really meant something to them. So that's kind of a compliment to St. Pat's. Joe Redmond still missing. He was a huge loss tonight. I know it's easy to say, well, Pats are missing X, so that's why they didn't achieve Y. But you do need all of your best players out on that pitch in a European game, regardless of the opposition.
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously Redmond and Grogowski are both missing 2 centre-halves. That would be probably forced choice. So look, I don't want to keep harping on about it because the lads who played did do well. I know Norman comes on and he hasn't played an awful lot of football. He's just
Am I being harsh there? It was just one mistake from Norman, and you could argue that maybe Lennon could have got to it. And I'm saying, oh, well, if Redmond was there, maybe that stuff doesn't happen.
Yeah, possibly, but look, it's what Norman is doing. It's what you would generally want the St. Pat's team to do. You want them to play out from the back, but when you're up in the tie and you don't want to invite any pressure and things are getting a little bit tight, and Dudelange do press quite well. So for me, when you feel the door closing like that and it's getting a little bit tight, just clip it over the top and make sure they can't score when they're 70 yards away from your goal. So it was an error compounded by another error, and then even when they do nick the ball, Norman goes and sells himself into the tackle. But look, again, take nothing away from Dudelange. In the final third, he had that little bit of class with Van Lingen and quite decent at the back as well. They put up with the physical battle. They even in the second half, the first half, Forrester was running between full-back and centre-half and Pats were finding gaps, but in the second half, Dudelange were then standing in the channels. They were anticipating that ball, and then Pats were trying to find little holes in front of the back four. But yeah, look, I think Dudelange are decent, but again, Pats will be really sick with this.
How important is it that they don't let this affect the rest of the season? The first hurdle to overcome after this is the Sports Direct FAI Cup clash away to Longford.
Yeah, it will be difficult because we all know that when the Irish clubs get the European fixtures, it's a big lift. You're all looking forward to. Maybe there's a little bit of a run on the horizon. It hasn't happened for St. Pat's, but like I say, I think they played okay in this game. Big cup game on the weekend. Need to get back on the horse, and again, they're in a decent position in the league. I don't think anybody's really expecting them to go and beat Rovers for the league, but if they can turn it into a race, I think the Pats fans will be quite happy. But the number one thing is to go and make Europe again next season. You have to go and make Europe next season.
Can they turn it into a race?
I hope so. Look, I think if anybody's going to do it, St. Pat's are just as well placed as anybody else. They're playing decent football in the league. Chris Forrester scoring goals, Mulroney scoring goals, and I think Joe Redmond trained the last couple of days in a row as well. So hopefully he's not too far away from returning. It's all looking good with the two centre halves maybe coming back, or I think Rogowski might be a little bit further down the road than Redmond, but yeah. Redmond coming back is a good sign. But like you say, it's important that Pats get back on the horse and don't let this linger now.
It's been a mixed week in Europe for the League of Ireland teams. Derry and Dundalk, as we speak, got through tonight. Obviously, you didn't see those games, so I won't ask you about them. Shamrock Rovers are still in Europe, but not in the competition they want to be in. Beaten in Iceland during the week, beaten well. They'll play Ferencváros in the second qualifying round of the Europa Conference League. That's going to be tough. Firstly, what did you make of their performance in Iceland? What do you think went wrong? What do they need to correct for the next stage in Europe?
I just think a lot of the bigger players didn't play well on Dundalk. I know Jack Byrne, he was missing. Graham Burke didn't do too well in the second leg. I know he scored a penalty, but I see him when he came off. You could see the shots he was effing and jeffing as he was walking off the pitch. He wasn't happy with his own performance. So I think there's an awful lot more to come from that Rovers team. And look, I've heard the argument that people saying that Rovers aren't being pushed in the league domestically. So it took me a long time as a professional footballer, Oisin, to realise that it's not like a tap. You can't just turn this on and off. So if Rovers have been sketchy in the league, it's only reasonable that they're going to be sketchy in Europe. I do think they were sketchy over the two legs. But again, I think Breidablik were probably a lot better than people give them credit for. But I expect our champions, I expect Shamrock Rovers, to do a little bit better now in the Europa Conference League.
And I have two questions left. One of them is, can we learn anything as a league from the defeats in Europe? Like, is there any signs of something further or something wider, or things we need to correct or amend, be they big or small things?
No, well, look, I think a lot of people will look at this and think, oh, we've been beat by a Luxembourg team, and it shouldn't happen on the face of it. But look, it was a decent game. These are a decent.
I'd include Rovers in that though as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Breidablik as well. I think a lot of people just drew comparison and thought, oh, an Icelandic team, a team from Luxembourg, we should beat them. But look, these are some decent teams, and they're in a decent competition, so we shouldn't take them so lightly. I do think the League of Ireland is getting better. It's growing all the time, but so are the other leagues around Europe as well. So, when these draws are made, I don't think people should just naturally say, oh, we should get through this. And we've seen that with Shamrock Rovers and obviously St. Pat's tonight.
We are going to hear more on the Republic of Ireland and Australia, which took place in Sydney earlier this morning as we speak, in a while with Luke Jordan, who was actually at the game. But before we get to that, you watched the match. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I thought the girls did really well. They did us proud. And, there's certain games from an Ireland point of view, especially the girls, it's their first World Cup. We're trying to put building blocks in place for us to go and achieve things over there. But look, to restrict an Australian team to nothing more than a penalty, and I thought it was a little bit soft of a penalty. Had it been at the Irish end of the pitch, I'd have been screaming me lungs out. The referee gave it was a brilliantly tucked away a penalty kick. We did huff and puff towards the end without ever really making any cutthroat chances. But look, I thought we threw punches. We had a physical battle. We ran around. We did everything we could. And to say we restricted one of the best teams in the world, Australia, to nothing more than a penalty, I thought was brilliant. And we could have easily nicked the draw out in the end, and just gives us that little bit more hope now for the Canada game.
Okay, Keith Treacy, formerly of St. Pat's and of course the Republic of Ireland, thank you for joining us on the extratime.com League of Ireland Voice Notes podcast. It's a European special. It's been a good night as we speak for Dundalk and Derry City. A bad night for St. Pat's. They're out following defeat here to Dudelange, defeat away as well. Still to come, as I say, Luke Jordan will be joining us from Sydney. There is a wider and longer podcast focusing on that game and a few other things to come, so keep an eye out on the extratime.com social media channels. But right now we're going to get some reaction from here in Richmond Park, where St. Pat's have unfortunately gone out of the Europa Conference League at the hands of Dudelange of Luxembourg, and you're going to hear that reaction right now. John Daly, St. Pat's manager, a disappointing night here at Richmond Park. What are your thoughts on the game and the performance?
Yeah, I thought first half we gave up a lot of opportunities and we were fortunate to go in 1-1. I thought obviously then the changes at half time got us on the front foot. Adam puts us ahead 2-1. I thought we were in control of the game, and then we make a basic error that we compound with another error by not dropping and delaying, and then we got punished for that. And then obviously late on we're throwing bodies up to try and score the one that could take it to extra time, and they hit us with a sucker punch on the break. And so yeah, look, I think if we're being brutally honest, over the two legs they've probably had the better chances within the game. So but at 2-1 I thought we were the team that were pushing and looking like we were going to be the team that were going to win the game. And as I said, we make a mistake, and it gets.
Does that mistake come from playing against a team who are maybe up a few intensity levels to what you normally face?
No, it comes from a lack of concentration on our part. We spoke all week about playing passes into midfield, about working around their midfield, but for whatever reason, we choose to pass into midfield where we know they're going to jump the press, and we've spoke about it and worked on it all week about playing around that and not trying to force balls through the midfield, and we do it. When that happens, you can still fix that mistake by maybe dropping and defending the space, but we come charging out and they pop it around us, and then, as I said, we get punished for it.
Is it a big blow to morale, and how difficult will it be to recover from that?
Of course, it's a blow to morale. It's huge. It's we've worked extremely hard to get here, and you're out at the first kind of opportunity. I think it's important. Football doesn't kind of give you time to feel sorry for yourself. We've got a huge game on Sunday now against Longford that we need to prepare for, so we can't fix this. The mistake happened. I felt again we had a 5 or 10 minute spell where we kind of again felt sorry for ourselves instead of just getting back on the horse and going again. And but that's we need to learn from disappointment and make sure that when we have got disappointing moments, we respond better.
That game on Sunday is a huge game anyway. It would have been a huge game anyway, regardless of result tonight. Is it even bigger now?
No, it's still an opportunity to progress in the cup, and that doesn't change. It's a big game. We know, obviously, the ones that were here the year they won the cup, they know what it's like to go on a cup run and to actually go on and win it. It's a huge achievement and it's a great opportunity. It's going to be a difficult game. We've watched them as a staff. We've seen them 3 times this last few months, so we know what they're about. We know they're going to be well up for the game. They'll see this as an opportunity. The fact that we've played 2 or 3 days before we play them, they'll see it as an opportunity to potentially come out of traps and try and catch us a bit leggy. But it's important that we're not leggy and we recover properly and we get ready for that.
And finally, is it nearly ideal to have a game coming down the tracks this quickly? Because when you fall off a horse, you kind of want to get back on it straight away, don't you?
No, of course, I think so. I think, as I said, you have disappointing moments in football, and it's really important that you brush it to a side and you go again. And as I said, it's a big game. It's a cup game. We're going to have a lot of Pats fans down there supporting the group, which is again very well appreciated. A great crowd again here tonight. We're obviously disappointed we couldn't send them home happy, and looking forward to the next round. But as we spoke about in the change room there, about feeling the disappointment and making sure that we give ourselves the best opportunity to come back here again next year and have another go there.
Cheers, John.
Thank you.
This is the ExtraTime.com League of Ireland Voice Notes podcast European special, and that was John Daly, the St. Pat's manager, following defeat to Dudelange, home and away in the Europa Conference League. So a bad night for St. Pat's, a good night for Derry and a good night for Dundalk, both of whom got through their ties. Granted, against teams from Gibraltar and Faroe Islands, you would expect that, but it's still a big deal because all European ties are tough. Right, before we go, let's hear from ExtraTime.com League of Ireland podcast presenter Luke Jordan, who was in Sydney for the Republic of Ireland's defeat to Australia at the FIFA World Cup. After the match, and after he gathered his thoughts, he sent us this voice note.
Hi Oisin, and greetings from Sydney on a night where the Republic of Ireland women's team make history, competing in their first ever FIFA World Cup match against the host nation Australia. Unfortunately, succumbing to a 1-0 loss thanks to a Steph Cartley penalty early in the second half. We'll come back to that incident in a sec. There was 75,000 in attendance in Stadium Australia. It was a brilliant atmosphere. Plenty of Australians, but plenty of Irish who made the journey over from the Emerald Isle, but also some who live here too. First half in particular, the Australians started well. Ireland set up in their usual 5-4-1 shape and at times did look a bit outclassed on the ball by the Australians, but the game itself in the first half was scrappy. Very little chances really. Caelan Ford had a decent opportunity in the first half, but after that then, other than a couple of set pieces, the game was quite tight in the first half. The second half is where the difference was made in the game, with unfortunately Ireland conceding the penalty, as I said, early on in the second half. Marissa Sheehan was deemed to have fouled Hayley Razzo in the box. It's one of them where I think, it's harsh, but you've seen them given. Some Irish fans in the stand and also some Irish players in the pitch were looking for a VAR check, I think, but I think once the referee made a decision, it was never going to be overturned. And unfortunately, Steph Cayley buried her penalty to make it 1-0. To be fair to the Irish team, they did come back into it, and I actually felt a draw would have been a fair result. They really pushed without creating too many clear-cut chances. In particular, though, Abby Larkin made a huge difference coming off the bench in the second half. It gave us more impetus. At times we did look a little slow sometimes, but when Larkin did come on up front, it gave us a real bit of impetus up front. Late chances really fell to Louise Quinn, a decent chance from a header. Megan Connolly had a free kick out. I was behind the goal in the second half, but I thought the ball was going to come in where all the Irish fans were. Unfortunately, it hit the roof of the net, and just at the death, Abby Larkin got on the end of a loose ball, cut it back to the one player probably you want the ball to fall to, Kate McCabe. She twisted and turned to try to get her shot off, but unfortunately was saved by the Australian keeper. There was joyous scenes at the end of the game for the Australian players, heartbreak for the Irish players, knowing that there was definitely an opportunity there to get a point on the board. But look, from an Irish point of view, I think first of all we can be very proud of the team. I know it's kind of a cliche sometimes to hear about Irish teams, but I think in this case we can definitely say, going playing against the host nation the first game, backs against the wall in the first half and seeing that early penalty and to respond the way they did, I think it's a credit to the team. So, and also a credit to Vera Pale possibly making the changes to give us that impetus in the second half. But look, going to Perth now, but again, if there's no reason why we can't go into that game and get a point, and hopefully then, if we get a point against the Canadians, it sets up a brilliant tie then against Nigeria in Brisbane, where maybe if we get the win we can get out of the group. But look, on the night itself, fantastic spectacle. I'll be doing a postcard which will be on extratime.com during the week, which will hopefully give some people the idea of how the atmosphere was in the build-up, so please have a read of that later on in the week.
Well, that's it for the extratime.com League of Ireland Voice Notes European Special Podcast. As I say, Luke and the gang have an even deeper dive into that game and everything else on the extratime.com podcast. Keep an eye out on the social media channels. Keep an eye out on extratime.com and the extratime.com social media channels across the weekend for everything you need to know regards domestic football and, of course, all the updates from the Republic of Ireland camp at the World Cup. The dream not over yet. They're still very much in it, and their performance against Australia suggested that maybe, just maybe, they could do enough to get through the group, depending on how it goes against Canada and Nigeria. That's it from myself, Oisin Langan. You can find me on @Oisin Langan via Twitter. Until next time, take care. Bye bye.